Hey everybody, it's Allison Haikila. Thanks so much for joining me. It's time for a new Imagine video. We are going to start off with 3 re-inkers from Imagine. We've got Pansy, Lavender, and Ultramarine, and I'm going to be applying them to a 6x6 gel press plate that I have on a skinny acrylic block. And I've got my Speedball 6-inch brayer on the side there. And this is Flake Meltdown. It's a stencil from A Colorful Life Designs. And I thought that that would make a really cool bunch of prints. I am starting off with the Ultramarine, and I'm applying way too much ink, you guys. Way too much. Don't do all this. I wind up using a good portion of it in a variety of ways, but you really just don't need this much. You can use your brayer to just roll out that color and spread it out nicely on your gel press plate. I just have too much. You can see that it's beating up a little bit, and I'm not really sure why, but it doesn't really matter because the prints look very cool when they're done anyway. I've got a print here that I wasn't really in love with, so I figured I'd just add some layers. That's a really good way to kind of work with prints that you don't love. Just keep adding layers on top of them and see what happens. Look at all that delicious ink on that stencil there. So I've got a clean, fresh piece of copy paper, and I'm going to apply it to the plate. And this is going to be one of the prints that I really love. This might actually be the print that we use for the card. Yep, it is. It's so pretty, right? Look at those colors. I love them. Love them. So now I've got all that ink left on my brayer. We do not need to apply any more because there's just so much there. And now I'm going to put the stencil right back on top in the same orientation. So this way the same colors are on top of the same colors because there will be some transfer from the stencil to the plate itself. And I grabbed a different bit of paper. This is from a science textbook that my son gave me. He's like, I don't need this anymore. So I gessoed on top of it, and then there's some splotchy stuff. I don't remember what it is. It's just shimmery, splotchy stuff. It could be rhubarb stalk fireworks spray. I'm not really sure. But anyway, I just added that on top. Again, not really looking to get anything fantastic out of that because the main prints are going to be these ghost prints, these secondary prints that we're pulling. But it's nice to have some layers, and of course you don't want to waste any of the ink. Oh, look at that. I really like that there's not really white showing, that it's just lots of color. That's because we left the ink on that stencil. So it didn't pull up, it just kind of left some excess there, and it just came out really cool. So now I just sprayed the stencil because I'm trying to clean it off, and we don't want to waste the ink, and we've got plenty of paper laying around. So I grabbed some more copy paper, sprayed it with water. You can even use ink potion number 9 if you want to. That helps ink colors blend. It gives them some more open time. That's a product from Imagine. But I just decided to use some water, and I'm just spraying that right on top of my glass mat and getting a really nice print. There's some excess colors there because they were just kind of on my glass mat, but I think it looks good anyway. I think it's nice. When it dries up later on, I'll show it to you again. So now there's all this color still on my brayer, and I really could have kept going. But then this would have turned into a video like it was last month, which I had the best time with. So if you didn't catch it, I hope you go back and take a look, where we made monoprints with Kaleidocolor inks and leaves. But there's so much ink there, I could just keep going. Like, just look at all that glorious, glorious ink. But then it would have been like last month's video, and it would have just been prints and no finished card. And I figured, you guys probably want to see a finished project, right? Let me know in the comments what you think. Like, would you rather finished projects, or do you enjoy just printing sessions? Here I'm showing you the finished prints, and they look so good. I love how they came out. And it was down to these 2. I wasn't sure which one I was going to use, but I wound up going with that very first ghost print that we had because it was exactly what I had in mind when I envisioned what we were going to make together today. Here I just have a piece of cardboard that I cut a hole in the center to be 4 by 5 1/4, which is the size that I like my focal layer to be. I work in A2 sizes typically when I'm making cards, and that allows me to have a nice border around the edge. So that interior window just helps me kind of eyeball what something's going to look like. It's easier to kind of figure out what section I'm going to work with and what parts I'm going to remove when you have, a large piece of paper that may be a monoprinter or pattern paper or whatever. It just helps me focus on the area that I want to keep. So now I've cut that down to my, again, 4 by 5.25, and you can see that there's a nice border around there so that I can either leave it white or add color, which is what I do 9 times out of 10. I grabbed this is new to me. I have this Creative Expressions die and stamp set. It's from the Festive collection called Wishes. I was unable to locate this exact one on their website. I do have their main website listed in the description box, as I do with all of the products that I've used today. This might be discontinued, this particular one, but they do seem to have a whole lot of other cool products, so make sure you take a look. But I liked it because it has this main focal die and then stamps that are, what's the word? They kind of help you build the sentiment, right? The word isn't coming to me. Forgive me, you guys. But you know what I mean. You know, you build a sentiment with it. Supporting. It's a supporting set of words in stamp form. Guys, it's been a day. I feel like I say that all the time. I'm just tired. But I'm having fun because look at my hands. They're all pink, not pink, blue and purple. See? What's happening with me? So I die cut the wishes. Let's get back to the card. I die cut the wishes out of just plain white cardstock. And I started using some Memento inks with my cottontail blending brush on top. I started with Summer Sky, and then I decided to jump over to Elderberry. Colors weren't really speaking to me just yet, so I grabbed some Bahama blue, put that on top, and that was looking better. Just blending those colors on top. And it's helpful because this is a little bit of a delicate dye. So leaving it in the cardstock like that makes it much easier to ink blend on top. You could also ink blend your cardstock before you die cut it. That's always an option, but I kind of prefer to do it after the fact if I'm using multiple colors, just because I'm not sure exactly where the colors are going to be placed when the die is cut. It could move in my machine and things like that. So I like to do it after, but using that excess piece of cardstock to keep it in place is definitely helpful. So you can see that it's overhanging the card, and that's totally fine. I don't have a problem with that. We're going to remove it later on. So I feel like it's still not good enough, and I went with Paris Dusk. Here's something about me. I prefer felt pads, felt ink pads over like the spongy foam, simply because, oh, by the way, I die cut it out of a metallic blue foiled cardstock also, just to give it a shadow layer. I'm just going to offset it when I adhere it. So I love felt pads because they have a texture on them, right? Foam doesn't, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't have a problem with foam. I just like being able to utilize the texture that's on the felt pads. So by simply lightly kissing the ink pad to the paper, or the cardstock in this case, it gave it a really cool texture, and finished off that sentiment in a way that I wouldn't have been able to do another way unless I had a texture stamp that I put on top. But the ink pad itself allows you to just kind of add a little something that it needed without it being like an obvious thing like, oh, I'm not going to add stars to this, right? Or I'm not going to add hearts to this. I just want some texture, and this is the perfect way to do it. So long story short, I like felt pads. And Memento pads are felt, and it gives you a nice look. And it gave me exactly what I needed because I didn't want the wishes to be super clean, because the gel press print that we made isn't super clean. You know, it's got that bubbly look to it, and you can see a little bit of the roller effect happening on the bottom there with it's very lavender. And I didn't want it to be super clean because then it wouldn't be cohesive. So that texture made it a bit more cohesive. So now I'm letting that dry with an acrylic block on top, and I've got Grape Jelly Fireworks Spray. I love this color, and I shook it up pretty well. And now I've just got a watercolor brush. You could use whatever brush you've got, and I'm going to paint the edges of my card base. This is probably how I use fireworks sprays the most. I do spray them sometimes, but I really like to use them on the borders of my card bases because it adds a really nice zing of color, and it has the additional fabulousness of shine because of the shimmer that's in the spray itself. So just very easily applying this with my brush, trying to not, make a mess on the back, but, it happens. And then I'm going to just let that dry, and it's going to look nice and such a pretty shade of purple with shimmer as well. There you go. You can see a little bit there. It's a little bit more obvious when it's dried, but it is there. Now I am going to adhere my snowflake layer to the card base. That grape jelly has now dried. And then we're going to work out how we're going to complete our sentiment on here. So we've got this fabulous die cut wishes, that double layer there, which I'm really happy with how it turned out. And then we've got, again, that little stamp set that is included with the die. It also comes with that rectangular die that you could see there on the right, that strip. And you're supposed to, well, one option is that you stamp your sub-sentiment into there. So in this case, I decided to go with winter. There's lots of options: Yuletide, warmest, birthday, things like that, which is very cool. And I decided to use Fantasia VersaFine Clair with that winter after adding a touch of Elderberry to that strip that I had already die cut. Now you can see that the strip is way longer than my word, and that's all right, because I'm going to just take that die and run it through my machine again so that it has a finished look. You can just use your paper trimmer, but there's a slightly embossed edge to it. Tough to see on camera, but it's there. And I figured that if I just cut it with my trimmer, it would be pretty obvious. So I wanted to use the die. Now I'm finagling where that winter's going to go, and I'm just not sure. The rectangle is totally throwing me off. It's just not working with the background design. It just seems like it's out of place and floating, and I'm not real happy with it. So I decided, you know what? I know for sure that the wishes is going to go down there at the bottom. And then at least I don't have to worry about that moving while I'm trying to figure things out. And now I'm like, well, why do I have to use it in the rectangle? I don't. So how about we try this instead? And I'm like, one last hope here. Let's see if that works. But I'm like, nope, it's not going to be okay. So instead I grabbed that Fantasia VersaFine Clair again and just said, you know what? Forget it. We're going to just stamp it directly on the card. And you know what? I am very happy with that. I wind up saving this winter. I just put it into the package with the die and stamp set, and then I have it for another time. And I think that that looks great. So now I've got some sequins. I'm going to use some blue and purple, and I'm trying to coordinate the color with the ink color that is where the snowflakes are. So I'm starting off with darker colors. You can see that there's two different blues there. I wind up using the darker blue at the top, and then I use a medium blue and throwing my sequins all into my little Twiddler's Nook tray there just to kind of get everything placed. And then I'm going to adhere them. You could see that now they're all perfectly arranged. And now I have my On Point glue, which is my favorite adhesive for sequins and gems. It just works really well. It's clear. It's innately clear. It doesn't start off white and dries clear. It is clear, which makes me happy. And it dries super fast and it's really strong. And I like to use a pokey tool in the same hand that my On Point is. And then I have like a jewel picker in the other hand to kind of help move the sequins around. Pick it up, and then I use the pokey tool to stick it down. And that's it for the card, you guys. I think it came out really, really pretty. And I have some extra prints that I can use at another time. I hope you learned a thing or two, and I hope that you enjoyed yourself. Please let me know in the comments if you plan on trying any of these techniques yourself. I would love to know, and I'd love to see what you make. I'll be back real soon. Be well, stay safe, peace out.